ArchManning is one of the most hyped up prospects of our generation. He's been a talking point among fans for as long as he's been alive, but how good is he actually? Today, we're going to find out. If you ever go on the football side of the internet, you'll see takes like this. ArchManning, already valued as the 4th best QB in the NFL. And while you should take this as a reason to never open Reddit again, as opposed to a fact, it brings up the question, what brought about this hype? Was it truly only his last name? Born in 2005 to Cooper Manning, son of quarterback Archie Manning and brother to Peyton and Eli, Arch was always bound to have a spotlight put on him. The only reason his father Cooper quit playing football was because of a serious medical issue just before his freshman season in college. Not much is known about Arch's early life. He was raised in New Orleans and played multiple sports from a young age, including baseball and basketball. But obviously, football's the one that stuck. He attended the Isidore Newman School, the same school his dad, uncles, and grandfather attended, and became the first freshman quarterback to start the season opener in 40 years. He quickly proved he was a real deal and not just some nepo baby, as he won the season opener by 26 points, where he threw 3 touchdowns. Clips of him throwing were going viral, and he was already on recruiters' radars. It wasn't all highs though for the freshman phenom. In his final game of the season against Dunham, he went 10 for 20 for only 71 yards in a 22-20 loss. Arch ended his freshman year with 2,500 yards and 34 touchdowns, which earned him the Max Preps Freshman of the Year. Not faltered by his poor performance in his final game of the 2019 season, he came out in 2020 and set the world ablaze in his first game, scoring a total of 6 touchdowns, and in his national TV debut, throwing for 2 touchdowns and rushing for 2 more. A little later in Manning's sophomore season, he threw for 5 touchdowns in a single game. Wait, sorry, I read that wrong. In a single quarter. But anyone could throw 5 touchdowns against poor competition. How would he do in the playoffs? Isidore Newman received a bye in the first round of the D3 playoffs, and in the second round, Arch would throw for 147 yards and a touchdown in a 14-7 win. Not at all domination, but a win's a win nonetheless. Unfortunately, in the semifinals, Arch would complete less than 50% of his passes and throw a pick in a 21-7 loss against Lafayette Christian Academy. Isidore Newman went 9-1 on the season, and Arch threw 1,900 yards, 21 touchdowns, and 7 interceptions, while adding an additional 8 touchdowns on the ground. In case some of you forgot, the season was obviously shortened due to a virus, so the stats may seem a little low. Keeping his streak of amazing season openers, Arch threw for 258 yards and 4 touchdowns in a 28-point shutout against Vanderbilt Catholic. This year looked to finally be Manning's year. He had 2 perfect games where he went 11 for 11 and threw 5 touchdowns in a 70-point shutout against Fisher, and later went 9 for 9 and threw another 5 touchdowns in a 34-point shutout win against Cohen. None of this mattered though, as playoff time approached, and in Manning's first playoff game of the season, Isidore Newman would get an easy 37-6 win. But the semifinals were against Lafayette Christian Academy, the same team that sent Arch packing just a year earlier. And unfortunately for Manning, there was just nothing he could do. Lafayette won 49-7, and Arch went 7 for 16 for only 52 yards and a pick, although he did score 1 on the ground. Quickly, before we get into his senior season, if you're enjoying this video, consider liking and subscribing. Although all these years have been ending on a negative note, it's not Manning's fault. He was considered the consensus #1 quarterback despite these losses, and don't let one game each year distract you from how great of a high school career he was having. For his senior season, Manning was named the captain of Isidore Newman football team, where he would go on to break Eli Manning's record of career passing yards by over 1,000, and break Peyton Manning's record of career passing touchdowns by over 20. Isidore Newman would lose in the state quarterfinals going 8-3, but Arch himself had a great year, having 2,200 yards, 34 touchdowns, and only 2 interceptions. This would make Manning's career stats at Isidore Newman be a record of 33-9 while throwing for 8,500 yards and 115 touchdowns to only 19 picks. This was obviously good enough to get him recruited to Texas, along with his tight end Will Randall. I won't give you some fake insane storyline for his freshman season at Texas because, to be honest with you, nothing really happened. He redshirted, threw a couple of passes, and hype for him grew. But his sophomore season, or officially his redshirt freshman year, is where things got interesting. Manning came on for Ewers against Colorado State when the Longhorns were up 38-0 and threw for 95 yards and threw his first collegiate touchdown. Later, against UTSA, Manning came on when Ewers got injured and he lit UTSA up. On his first play, he threw a 19-yard touchdown to DeAndre Moore, and 2 plays later, he ran for a 67-yard touchdown. He ended the day with 223 yards passing, 53 rushing yards, and 5 total touchdowns in a 56-7 win. He started the next 2 games while Ewers was injured and threw 2 touchdowns and 2 interceptions in a 51-3 win against UL Monroe, and 2 touchdowns and 0 interceptions, along with another rushing touchdown in a 35-13 win against Mississippi State. He ended the season with 940 passing yards, 9 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions while picking up 4 touchdowns on the ground. But, as we all know, stats lie. So how did he actually look? Manning's arm talent is undeniable. He has a great throwing motion with great velocity and touch, putting the ball into tight windows with ease. He shows great anticipation when throwing, which is always great to see in a young quarterback, and shows high-level pre-snap processing. You really see all this when he has a clean pocket, as in a clean pocket, Manning had a 73% completion percentage, along with a yards per attempt of 11. This is all great, but if you can't perform when the heat is coming, none of it matters. And unfortunately for Manning, his biggest weakness is handling pressure. His on-target throw percentage when a blitz is coming drops all the way down to 39%, and it seems like all his pre-snap reads go out the window, and he begins relying on his arm talent way too much. Finally, his biggest weakness is we really just haven't seen enough of him, as he's only started 2 games in college. I truly believe he's going to play at least 2 more years in college, as he doesn't need the money obviously, and both his uncles stayed at least 4 years at college. He has the biggest game of his life so far on Saturday against the Buckeyes, and if you're watching this after that game, I'll leave a pinned comment with how he did. Just remember, whether good or bad, don't overreact to a single game, and if you like this video, consider liking and subscribing. Thanks for watching.